Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel and welcome to this part 3 video for this inking process on the Spider-Gwen character. The idea for this video is just to finish up where we left off in the previous. I wanted to have everything done in one single video, but it was too long. It was 2 hours worth of content, so I had to split this up into two separate videos. But yes, here we're going to continue exactly where we left off in the previous, and so I'm going to continue rendering the top half, in this case, of this Spider-Gwen character. And as you can see, I'm doing the same thing that I did in the previous video. I'm marking off the areas where I'm going to leave the white parts on the character, so which represent the light source. And so I'm marking off the areas here. And after I finish doing this, I'm going to go over this with a tech pen with the ink, and then I'm going to erase the ink and then go back and fill in the blacks and then start with the rendering. In this case, you're going to see exactly how I render from beginning to end on all of this black area, including in the legs, for example. You can see that I did the blacks, but I have not rendered it. And with rendering, I'm referring to feathering and any other small lines that you can add to give it a little bit more of that comic book feel to it. And so yes, I'm going to go use my light again, like I did in the previous video, and just dive in and start outlining these black areas. And yeah, this part here is a lot easier for me than it was doing the legs because eh, I have I don't know, I just feel like I have a better control on what I want to do here versus the other part, which is a little bit of a struggle. And I'm going to continue trying using the same approach as I did to the legs, just trying to give that same style of inks and rendering. And and yeah, so you can see me outlining this. And yeah, hopefully here in this video you're going to see the complete process. I'm also going to and then I'm sorry, you're gonna see the complete process, and then after this, the next step would be to start on the background. And with the background, I'll be able to explain to you what my process is for doing an entire city per se in the background, and so you can also see how I do my backgrounds versus other artists, and get some insight on that also. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to try to upload more videos like this. Maybe not full length videos of 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Try to do some shorter videos where you can see myself. You can see me working on different characters. Um, I'll have to do a separate video where I'll explain um, what my conclusion is from this experiment, because I wanted to see what it would be like to do a video like this where I can show off my entire process from beginning to end, giving commentary and giving a little bit of an insider view on the decisions I make when I'm doing art. And so after I'm done with this drawing, I'm going to, I don't know, give some personal feedback on what I thought of the process, and and see what I'm going to do moving forward. One thing that I can mention right now is that it's a lot to record this, and also to come back and do commentary. It's a lot more work than what I would normally do. And for example, this piece has taken me, I think, over a week, considering the recording and all that stuff. So I'll have to take that into account moving forward and see if I can still do that, because I still have other projects to work on and move forward with. But we'll see what happens. No, we'll see. And I appreciate the feedback. I think a good amount of people liked it, so I think I might continue. We'll see what happens. Because I mean, I'm doing this being, for the most part, free to from other projects, so I can dedicate the time needed for this. But that may not always be the case, no? So we'll see what happens. Yeah, here I'm over here. I'm over here marking off these the creases in this case, when the leg goes to the lower part of her torso. You have to make sure that I have the light there so I can see that the black is completely black and there's no areas where I might have missed it, or any white spots that might be there. And it helps me out a lot. Like other drawings, like I'll shine a light to it, and then I'll see there's like a bunch of little white spots where the black didn't completely cover, and I don't like that. So I'm using this light to make sure that the black areas are as black as possible, as dark as possible, because I like that. It's my personal, is my preference on that, is to make sure everything's nice and black all the way around. And yes, I'm continuing with the same process, just moving the page and making sure that my hand is comfortable to make the strokes that I need to make in the areas that I need to make them. And I use a different assortment of tech pens. Yeah. In this case, for this particular drawing, there's going to be moments where I'm going to zoom in so you can see exactly how I render and how the lines are put down, because I noticed in the previous video that I would start rendering. I'm sorry, there's background noise. I apologize for the background noise. But yeah, I noticed in the previous video that I would start rendering, and then you could not see very clearly all the lines that I was putting down. Like you could see it in the distance per se, no, but like, I didn't like that too much, because I would like to see you. I would like for you to get a good view of how it is that I do my hatching and cross hatching. One, so that if you don't know how to do it, maybe you get an idea of how to do it. And two, if you're a pro at doing it, you could probably tell me what it is I'm doing wrong. Maybe I should warm up some more. Who knows? Yeah, I'm going over this contour line. Yes. Please, if you're watching, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be posting more videos like this later on. I also have a few things, like for example, I posted an unboxing video for the Lost Pages 2, and I also posted another video talking about my artwork on Reaper Destroyer, and so I have other videos that you can check out also, and yeah, I'll be putting up more and more videos like that. So please make sure to subscribe, like the video, share it around. And yeah, as always, if you have any questions or comments or anything, then I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I can do a separate video. I had two questions that I'm going to answer, and one that I received on Facebook, on the art page on Facebook, and another one that I received from on Instagram. On Instagram, there was a person who asked me about rendering, shadowing versus lights, and then another person had asked a question about how to draw eyes. I'm not going to make a full-length video tutorial on how to draw eyes, because I don't think I'm an authority on that, but I will do a video and explain how it is that I go about drawing my eyes, and then hopefully that'll help out people who might need that information. And so yeah, if you have any other questions like that, please be sure to leave them in the comments, and I could do shorter videos explaining how I go about drawing eyes, hands, feet, and how how to make sure you have the right proportions on the bodies, because that's also something that's very important. And I see, um, I I practice with it a lot, and after practicing it, I can see that there's some artists out there that 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 don't do that. And I'm not going to explain or say why they don't do that, but maybe they don't know, or maybe they overlook that step. But there is like a rule and about how to correctly use correct proportions on your figures, and it's helped me out a lot. Um, and I'll show you some of my earlier drawings where you can see the difference and the impact that it makes on your art. More often than not, I'll draw something, and to me, in my mind, it's fine, it's perfect. No, like for example, this drawing, but then someone will come along and say, "No, this isn't how you do this," and then they'll show me a drawing, an image, or a graph, and say, "This is how you're supposed to do it," and it'll completely open my eyes to what I was doing wrong, um, or what I was doing different, and yeah, I appreciate things like that because sometimes you're so stuck on what you're always doing. They you think, no, what I'm doing is fine. It looks great. It looks nice, whatever. But then when you see how it's supposed to be done and compare it to what you're doing, and then you see the flaws, it makes you reflect and think, oh man, yeah, there's something there that I wasn't doing just right. So I've had that happen to me many times, and the changes that I've made to the way that I approach drawing figures has helped me out a lot because before my characters looked very short, but I'll explain that in other videos so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Yeah, here I am filling in the blacks. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, I think, for the torso area. We're just going over those black areas. Yeah, I don't think there's any more on that torso. Yeah, I think we're good. Now what I have to do is go over some of the costume features and then start rendering. Yeah, I'm going over this line here on the costume, making sure that I mark this stuff off nice. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's always good to go back and mark that off just so you can distinguish that between the blacks, so the black doesn't drown out those lines, because those lines are important. For example, those mark off the costume, so you have to make sure that they're visible. Sometimes because of the on how heavy the blacks are, sometimes those lines get lost. So yeah, I'm going over these lines that accent different parts of her body, and yeah, that looks much better. Let's see, now I'm going to continue with the contour on this arm. As you can see here, for example, I'll draw a line. You'll see that line that you see there, and then I'll go back over it and make it certain parts of it thicker. This is what's called playing with line weights, and I'll show you just what I mean. See, like there's the line, and I'm going to go back over that line again. Not too happy with this pen. This isn't as good as the pen that I had before this one. May have to go back to the store and get another one. Sometimes I do these exercises here so I can get the tip just to where I like it. Not like forcefully molding it so it can draw the way I want it to. And yeah, I'm going over. Yeah, here I start rendering. Start rendering the sides of this. Yeah. This is something that I learned from Art Adams. Art Adams does this. You take a look at his artwork, and on those lines right there, he'll render that. And it's not something too elaborate. It's just for this very small these lines here that give it a really good effect, uh, like a rim lighting effect. And there we go. Yeah, there's a zoom in, and so you can see how it is, how it looks. And yeah, this isn't too difficult to do. Just draw these small lines. The problem is spacing it out, making sure you have enough space, because what creates the illusion of lighting and what creates the illusion that this is a light against a dark area is how you space it out. And if you're able to space it out and keep it consistently spaced out the same way all the way through, then you're able to give a really good effect on this. Um, but for example, if you have like an inch in between one line, and then you have like 2 inches on the next line, 5 inches on the next line, and then back to 1 inch, then that's going to completely destroy the effect. So it has to be consistent all the way around. And for the most part, it is. Later on, I'll make some mistakes, but you can see that for the most part, it is. And here, for example, what I'm doing is I'm struggling to find a good, comfortable spot to start these render lines, so I have to move the page over and over again. And here you can see how I'm rendering this part. Then I'm going to go onto the leg, looking for that comfortable spot. If you have doubts as to in what direction to do your rendering lines and your feathering, I recommend that the direction you should do it should be pointing towards the primary light source. Is something that I would recommend. Like, have the lines point towards the light source. So I know, for example, that the light source in this drawing is above both of the Spider-Gwens, so I'll point it upwards. How would that be different in other cases? Like, you can also point it towards the side. You can point it downwards. I mean, there's different directions where you can point these feathering lines. And yeah, I think you should always point it towards the direction of the light, which in this case is to the top of the page. So aim it in that direction. Yeah, it gets. See, for example, that line's a little bit too long and it cut off all the way across, I think. But yeah, I mean, those little things, for example, if it's not too serious, then I'll just leave it as it is. But if it is something that's bugging me, then I will go to, when I scan the page, I'll go into digital and then cover that up a little bit. And I've done that like with almost every drawing. If you ask yourself, like, why does it look so clean, man? Looks this artwork so nice. Yet some of that is attributed to the work that I do in digital. Not all of it. I mean, I don't redraw the whole thing. I just nitpick a few things that I just can't fix with whiteout. Because sometimes there's areas and spots that are just too small for the tip of the whiteout pen to touch. And yeah, I just have to go over that with digital. Yeah. So here I'm doing the same thing. I'm going in the upward direction, trying to space it out as evenly as I can all the way through, trying to sell that effect. And this is a feathering and a rendering that I'm going to do all across this character, this figure. There we go. And here we go again. Now these these areas that are marked off on this part of the costume, they're very small lighting areas, so you can get away with these small feathering lines. But when I get to the legs, for example, there's a wider space, a more open space for the white. So in that case, I have to be more careful with how I do the rendering. Here, for example, on this thigh, you can see that the spacing isn't all the way even. There's like an area towards the left that's a little bit tighter. The lines are closer together. But but yeah, that happens. That kind of stuff happens. In this case, I think I'm just gonna leave it like it is. Here I'm putting these lines just to see how this looks. If I like how it looks, then I'll keep it. If not, then I'll probably modify the lines a little bit more to give it a more appropriate look. Yeah. Yeah, I'm analyzing that. How does it look? If I like it, maybe I'll come back to it. I'll continue rendering the rest of it and then come back and then yeah, I could change that. I'll do the other end also in the same style. And yep. Yeah. And it's quite a lot. No, it's not something that's done quickly. If I do it too quick, then there's a higher possibility of messing up the lines. So I try to take my time with this, and yeah, I'm analyzing how this looks. I may have to change that. Pretty sure I do change that. And yeah, I'm taking a look, see how this goes. If I like it or not. Testing out some different pens. I don't think I'm. I don't think I'm drawing. That would suck. I need you guys to see. Here, for example, you can see the different lines I make, and I do a first line, then I go back and I double up on it, and this is what is called building your hatch lines. If I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is called building your hatch lines. Building up on your lines. I want to make it just a little bit longer, a little bit thicker. And yes, because one thing that I learned when hatching is that the purpose of hatching is to try to transition from dark to light. So when you draw a single line that has the same width all the way through, the line can lose the effect. So what is always what I've seen in various pro artists and what I think is recommended is that you have a line that goes from thick on one end to very thin on the other end, almost like a triangle shape, I guess you can say, like a curved triangle shape. And if you learn to do that, then you're able to make that transition seem a lot more smoother from one end to the other, so that the dark is transitioning into the light, and it looks like that, versus you just drawing a singular line and then it looks like a big blotch of black, of a spot of a black area, and then just lines poking out. And that's not what you want. You want it to make it look as if it's transitioning from one to the other. So when it has to go from a thick black line to a thinner black line, and that is what I'm trying to achieve here. Which is why I do a quick small motion, then flick, quick small motion, then flick, quick small motion, and then flick, small motion and flick, flick, small motion, flick. And I have to do it in this particular way because these tech pens do not give you the lines that a crow quill can give you or a brush can give you. So with tech pens, you have to find ways to create lines that aren't made naturally with the tech pen. So see, for example, here it looks like a little triangle sticking out. And then I got to do the same on the other side. Here's a different approach because here I'm going from top to bottom, which I probably shouldn't be doing. Because when I start at the top, that top tip is going to be a lot thicker than I would need it. So Yeah. If you have questions about what I'm talking about, then I could do a video and explain what I mean. And and yeah, and he's gonna go all the way down to the leg. See that line, for example, I messed that up. I messed that up, man. I have to do the drawing all over again. No, I'm not keeping this. I'm doing this all over again. Forget this. Now that's something, for example, that I could just go back in digital and fix that up if it bothers me, because if not, I just leave it as it is. I don't think my daughter will notice. It also depends on the client, so. But yeah, my client, my daughter's, she's really picky. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I showed her these drawings, this drawing. I'm sorry, and yeah, she's flipping out. She's really enjoying how it's coming out, and yeah, she knows that. For example, in this case, I'm going to do the buildings, and I'm going to go back and color everything. This is going to be a full-fledged illustration, and you're going to be able to see every step of the way, except the coloring. I can't show you that because I don't have enough storage, I guess you can say, to store a video that long for coloring. So I'll post that later, and maybe I'll do a behind the art video for this. Who knows? Yeah, those are the hatch lines right there. And continue with the hatching along this edge here. All the way down. Yep. Yeah, because the idea with this is not just putting white areas just for the sake of putting white areas. You got to put white areas in places where you would assume, or where I would, or I'm putting them where I assume the light would shine. So you have to make it look as if like it's light being reflected off the fabric. It can't just be putting a white area where I want to put it, or just throw it down anywhere. Huh? That's why it's important. It's super important. I don't think I mentioned this yet, but it's super important to study anatomy. Um, I don't know all of it, but I know a decent amount. I would say to where I can get away with some of these drawings. Um, but knowing your anatomy is going to help you know understand exactly how what shapes are in which positions and how to make light reflect off those shapes. And if you don't know where the muscles go, where there's an underlying bone structure, where these even tendons are at and veins, then it's really difficult to have a good drawing. I mean, because I mean, in my case, back in the day, I could just get away with just guessing where a vein would go, and I just draw a vein anywhere, and then it looks nice, but if you know where they go, if you know how it's placed on the hand or on the arm or on the leg, then it'll help sell your drawing a lot more. Also, here, for example, I'm putting the light where I think the calf muscle and the leg would go. The calf muscle on the leg would go, and there may be there can absolutely be a better way to do this to make that light source show up. If you know a better way, then please comment. Please show us. But this is what I suspect from the knowledge that I have, and I don't have all the knowledge. I have a decent amount, I would say. Um, so yeah, so that's why I render it the way that I do. I'm not just throwing down lines for the sake of throwing down lines. I try not to do that with my drawings. I try to give everything a purpose. Now here you have this line, and then you see I'm making the line thicker. and then thinner or relatively thinner, and then I'm going to make it thicker again. Yeah, that variation from thick to thin, if I'm not mistaken, that's called line weights. So when you make certain areas thicker, you tend to give the impression that there's a shadow there. And you normally put those kinds of lines in areas where there's shadows. So line weights are super important. They help sell the shadows a little bit better, and they also help to pop your figures out from backgrounds that could be very detailed. I feel like in my case, for example, I'm going to need to pop my figures out because I'm going to do buildings, and they're going to be concrete buildings, brick buildings, and they're going to have all that stuff that's typical of New York. And yeah, before I start rendering, I make sure that I know exactly what kind of stroke I'm going to make and how I want my lines to appear. And yeah, if I'm going back over these lines, it's because I want the bottom area that's on the actual line to be a little bit darker, and the tip of that line to be thinner, to be thicker. Go from thick to thin. Crap, you can't see. Man, I'm sorry. All right, there you go. Yeah, here I'm doing different kinds of lines. Now, why am I doing different lines here? I'm doing different lines because it's a harder edge. Now, one edge is smoother and the other one is harder. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm gonna put some shadowing on the laces, just because. It's comic book art. And yeah, some rendering there also on the legs. Now, the rendering here is going to be pointing towards a reflecting light. There should be a second light source here, which is where this is pointing towards. Because I mentioned earlier that you should point it towards the light source. But there is no light source here because supposedly the primary light source is at the top of the page. So by doing this, you're indicating that there's a second light source somewhere nearby. It could be a street lamp. It could be many different things. It could be a blast from another superhero's power set down below. But yes, usually when you do that kind of thing with that kind of rim lighting, it's because it's showing or indicating that there's a second light source or a third or a fourth light source somewhere in the environment. And that's why in some cases you see people have problems with light sources. I'm sorry, with rim lighting, because they put rim light on everything. And so you put rim light on everything, then you don't really know where the light source is at, and then that can be confusing. So I'm doing it in this case just to be safe, but it may be that I just completely go over that in black, and I have no idea yet what I'm going to do with that, but I will keep you informed, and you will definitely see what happens as I'm getting this done. I think I might just leave that, and then when it comes to coloring, I think I might use that as a way to indicate a second or a third light source. We'll see what happens. And yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing the hatching on this rim lighting. Rim lighting everywhere today, guys. Rim lighting everywhere. Yeah, I used to be a fan of doing this on everything, because I thought that if I put black all the way to the edge, that it would not help. That it would that it wouldn't help to help. It wouldn't help. I'm sorry. It wouldn't help us to see the figure right. So I mean, like, I want to make sure that this is where the arm is. I don't want it to get lost into the darkness. But then I was recommended that it should get lost into the darkness because that's where the interpretation of the eye comes in. So I was really blown away by that. Yeah, here I do a line. I'm drawing this line, then I'm drawing it a little bit thicker at the top. It's called line weights again. Messing with line weights. Messing with line weights here again also. And yeah, line weights are really important. But yeah, I used to be a big fan of rim lighting, but then I stopped. And I'm glad that I stopped, because I think it effectively does look better when you don't use too much rim lighting. Because, for example, if there's an arm or a leg that's hidden in the shadow, let it stay hidden in the shadow. Just leave it there. It'll look fine. Most of the time, your eye can interpret what is there, so you don't need to draw every single little thing. Says the guy that's drawing every single little thing. But yeah. Let's see, I'm going from thin to thick at the bottom. Yeah, it's looking nice. I like how that looks. Yeah, then we zoom out, take a look at the pic. You know, what is it? How's it looking? Do you like it? Do you think it's fine? And then when everything is okay, you continue and move on with the drawing. So yeah, I think it looks good. And so see, for example, here now I'm finished with almost all of the black areas at the bottom. Now from here, I'm going to concentrate on the top part. And in the top part, since we're messing with a white fabric, I don't need to do heavy blacks, not too much. Or I choose not to in this case, because I want to have some kind of balance between the white and the black. So in this case, unless it's a very, very heavy shadow, I'm going to try not to use too much black. Try to play with the white and reflecting light that could bounce off of it. So you'll see that as I ink it. And the first thing that I'm going to do is draw the arm, shooting the spider web, and then from there I'll go to the hand. To Spider-Gwen's head. Then I'll go down to the hand, and then little by little bit I'll chip away at it until I get it done. And so I'm analyzing. Everything looks pretty good. Pretty happy with what I have. And here, as always, I'm marking off the areas where I think there should be shadows. Always keeping in mind that the primary light source is at the top of the page. So if it's at the top, then that means that this bottom area of the muscles should have the shadows. And so that's where I'm marking off the shadows. And here I go messing again with the feathering lines, just to make sure that I have the line that I want. The thickness of the line is always important. Hey, I'm glad I remembered to zoom in. All right, so here we go. This part is always nerve-wracking. That's why I double back. Make sure I have the lines that I want. Yeah, there I go. All right, let's just go for it. YOLO. Bam, 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 bam. I should have continued, but I stopped. But I should have continued. And then here I go again. Why did I stop? I stopped because where I started was on a white fabric, and then the area where I stopped at is where the purple fabric area for costume starts. So I didn't know if that had to be something that would be rendered differently or not. So I was like, I stopped. I should have continued though. Those are the kind of things that I learn as I ink. And yeah, this is a shadow. This one's going to be in heavy black. I'm not going to hatch that. I'm just going to put black on it. And I think I'm going to pull out the black marker, the pen. And here we go. Now, you see, I'm going over the very same line. I'm not going to leave any white areas between that. I'm just going to color that really dark. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I am going to leave an area. Very small area. Yeah. Rim lighting everywhere. There it is. And here we go. I'll make sure I erase this because I want this to be nice and black. Really dark, dark black. I don't want it to seem like I erased over it and then lifted up some of the black ink. Because I hate when that happens. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate looking at off blacks, like a light black. I like looking at very black blacks. Yeah, that's nice. Essentially, that white area where the rim lighting is under the arm, essentially I can go over that in black. It'll still look good because you'll still be able to interpret that that's an arm. But for some reason I left that there. And I'm continuing with the hatching. That's called cross hatching. Now I'm crossing in another direction. And continue with the hatching lines here. And I fade off as the muscle blends into the other muscle. Then hatching again. Cross hatching in this case. And that's something I learned from Stephen Platt, from David Finch, and from CG's own Rob Willis, the amazing Rob Willis. I'm a big fan of his art. I learned a lot from that guy. He's an awesome guy. If you don't know who he is, then you should find out. You should definitely check him out on Twitter. He posts a lot of his artwork on Twitter, and his art is phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. It's amazing. Big fan of his work. Big fan of his work. And yeah, his hatching skills are insane. And I study a lot of his art also because I like how he hatches his lines, and if there's something like that he's doing that I can learn from, yeah, I'll study it and then I'll swipe it. I'll take it and make it mine. And that's what they keep telling us. No, keep telling the artists, hey, if you see something, just take it, swipe it. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. No worries. And yeah, here I'm doing the contour lines. Going over the contour lines here. But yeah, you should definitely check out Rob Willis. He's an excellent artist. He's on Twitter. Who is Rob Willis? I think is his handle. Who is? I know who Rob Willis is. You should know too. He's done some really good artwork. Yeah, I learned about that importance of the thick line to thin line by studying some of Rob Willis's art. He does that kind of stuff all the time, and I study that, take a look at it, try to implement it. And Rob, he even goes as far as to hatch with white over black areas. Yeah, I think I didn't notice that. I noticed that, Rob. I'm going to use that also. One day, I don't know, because I don't think I can handle a white marker like he does. But if I'm mistaken, Rob Willis uses crow quills and I think uses white paint, or I think it's white out on a crow quill that gives him that effect. I'll show you one day. I'll show you. But if you can't wait for me to show you, there's a drawing that he did of the pit a while back, and he cross hatched white lines over black, and that just blew me away. I was like, whoa, I didn't know you could do that. But yeah, so he's an innovative artist, inspirational artist. All right, so here I am continuing. I'm doing the contour lines, and yeah, everything's looking pretty nice. going over this line here. This is an element for on the costume, and I'm going to darken that out. Also darken the element on this other part of the costume. Also got to make sure that we can see that it doesn't get lost to the blacks of the costume. I meant to the blacks of the black area for costume. And yeah, just keep chipping away at it. Here's some more hatching lines here. And just taking a look at the image now, or the drawing, make sure that I like it. And where else I could add some hatching. I'm also taking a look at where I could probably continue with some more lines. And yeah, I think everything looks pretty good. Now I'm going to jump onto the hand. Working with the contour of the hand in this case. And then also with the contour of the webbing. Just give me a second. Yeah, I'm going to use this other tool for the webbing. Now, in the contour of this webbing, we have to understand that the webbing is going from the background towards the foreground. So that means that the lines that are furthest away from us on the web, should be in a thinner line. And then the webbing, as it gets closer to the viewer, should have a thicker and thicker and thicker line as it progresses more towards the viewer. So I'm opting for using this sorry, for using this O2 micron to hatch, to go over the contour lines. But I'm also keeping in mind that as I go closer and closer to the end of the webbing, that the contour line has to be a bit bigger, so we can get the full effect that of the webbing coming closer towards the viewer, and that's to help sell that effect. And so here I am going over the contour lines for this. And in terms of the webbing, I'm going to do the contour lines, and then I'm going to use a smaller, a thinner line, another micron with a thinner line, to go over some of the details on the inside of the webbing. And in this case, I'm not going to get too crazy and trying to render the webbing. I think the webbing, it serves its purpose the way I have it rendered right now. So I'm not going to get too crazy with it. I'm just going to go over some of these lines. I'm not going to try to do any hatching on them. I don't think we can do that much to it. No, but just add a few lines here, go over the existing lines, and then that'll be it. As you can see here, it's going over the lines that are already there. And yeah. It's not much more to it. Not much more to it to that. And you're able to see exactly what I'm doing with this because I got the zoomed in feature now, which is really great. But yeah, here I just draw a few lines here for the individual strands, and then the strands they get lost here towards this end, and you have those lines fade away, and that's it. That's pretty much how the webbing is going to look here. And yeah, I gotta do that. Add some more details to the drawing. As it's shooting out. And do some accents on the hands, and just the marks where the creases on the fingers are going to be. There's some marks here also. Now, not get too carried away with it, because also you have to remember that this is a female's hand, and it's not as line crazy as a man's hand would be. It's just a few lines here to indicate the shape and where the shadow is. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't think there's much else we can do to that. And then from there, Yeah, this part here was bugging me. I was like, man, forget this. Let me just go. Let me just go through the whole line and just leave it. Yeah. See, I'm changing pens in this case because I do not like the line that the other pen is making, and this is not as sharp as I'd like it to be. And then from here, I think I'll move on to the arm, and just to I'm drawing these lines to accent where the muscles would be at, and because the shading is going to go according to where the muscles are. So I'm just want to mark off where those muscles are, where they start, with just a little bit. Um, I'm not one of those that people that like a cut female. Those big buff females that we see. Not a big fan of those. Those the types of drawings. So yes, I'm just trying to accent a few things and not mark off too heavily. And so there's the hatching for that. I wish I could have put the light more on that so you can see that a little bit closer. And then this top part of the arm, which is going to be behind the Spider-Gwen, this would naturally be in a darker light. So I'm doing this hatching, one to accent the muscle, and two to also mark off where the shadow would be. So I'm doing one in one direction, then I'm going to do it in another direction. Yep, here we are. A little bit of cross hatching there. Marking this off. Now this element to the costume. I know there are spider webs that go there, but I'm going to add those once I start doing the coloring. So I'm going to add those later on in the drawing. Then I'm marking these lines off to indicate the shadows along the forearm, and then this along the hand. And yeah, that's pretty much it on that arm. It's not much more. Here I have to do a longer line to indicate the shadow also that's coming off from that from the hood, just from her being in that position also. This was my initial way of doing it, but then I took a look back and I should have did it a little bit longer, so it has to go back down a little bit more. I don't go over the lines again because doing that just makes it look ugly. So I'll just leave it like that. I think that works pretty well. And then here's some accents on her boobs. And not too much. She's not known as a voluptuous character, I guess you could say. So I think that'll work just fine. And then from here, what I'm going to focus on now is the head. And in the head, she's got this hood, and the hood is going to cast a shadow on her mask. So I have to do that. Also, I have to be mindful of that. Right now, here, what I'm doing is just going over these lines with this heavier black. I want to be able to see her clearly. So marking this off, marking off the contour of her head. And then a small little line to the side that indicates her neck. Yeah, this is going to get that line. That's pretty much going to get lost in the shadow. So yeah. So now I'm going over this. As you can see, I'm going from thin to thick. Thin to thick. So the thin line to a thicker line. And then here I'm going over the mask eyes. That's why it's important to practice this motion. And so when I do pencils, I try to keep my hand limited to just that motion because that's the best one that I can do. To mark, to make that smooth. Yeah. I'm moving it because I couldn't see where the pen was going. Something that I learned from Neil Adams. You have to move the pen to where you can see where it's going. Then I'm going to go over these lines. Yep, there we go. Yeah, not much more rendering because this is a female, so in this case just light rendering would be enough to identify and define what some of the shapes are. And here I'm using the pen, the mechanical pen, to go over the areas where we're going to see the shadow on her costume. So some of the costume elements are going to get covered in black, and it's a cast shadow in this case. Though. I think that I think that's what cast shadow. I'm gonna go over that again with the ink pen, as you can see me doing now. Going over that with the ink pen. And a smooth stroke. And the same on this side. And I'm going to cover that in all black. And once I erase these lines. I don't erase those lines afterwards because if I erase them afterwards, then the eraser that I use is going to lift up a lot of that ink and it's going to make it look very dull. And I don't like that. I like a very nice heavy black. Here we go. Moving the paper to accommodate the stroke of my hand. That's the way that I like to work. Not the other way around. I don't like to force it because I think it's going to negatively affect how that line looks. So, and here I'm marking off where I think the shadow is going to go on between the hood and her mask. So I mark off this area here, and this is where I say that the neck is going to get lost. I'm just going to mark this off, leave a little bit of rim light there. And just to indicate that that's where the neck is. And yeah, and then from that black area towards the white area, I'm going to have to do a hatching in the sense where it's darker to one end and lighter to the other end, so you can see a smooth transition from black to white. At least that is the idea. So let me do the contour here. And contour here on this line here. And here again, I go from light to thick, because it's thinner line to thicker line. The thinner line always pointing towards the primary light source. This is a contour line, so I have to do this a little bit thick. It doesn't need to be 100% perfect because this is a hood, and the hood is over the head, and it doesn't always necessarily have to be 100% round or perfect. So a little imperfections there would be just fine. And yeah, now I have to work on that dark to light transition. And I'm using this area here as practice. We'll see how that works. And then if that works fine, then I'm ready for the other area because I think the other area is more delicate. And you can see, for example, with the pencil, I marked off where I want the hatching to finish. So here I go. Trying my best with this pen, with this ink pen. Hatching, all the way to the bottom. Now these first lines of hatching, they give us a certain transition. But if you want to make that transition smoother, then you have to cross hatch. Now when you cross hatch, you're not going to go all the way to the length of the first line. You're going to go a little bit inwards. And so you can see it getting from darker to light. And just a little bit there. That's pretty good. I could probably go back over a little bit more. I don't know if I do or not. And here I'm doing the shadowing for this. And some more lines here. Make sure I mark that off clearly. And yeah, it's just zoom out, take a look at the drawing, see what I think of it, where I could possibly do something different to it, where I can make some adjustments. What else is next? I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm done with this. Any other adjustments that I make, I can probably do it in digital, but I think I'm pretty good with what I have here. Now we have to render the webbing. And it's not much here. This is going to be similar to what I did on the other web, just going all the way through the webbing on this activity here. And I'm going and doing a contour first, and then after I do the contour, I'm going to go back in with a thinner line and try to just add a little bit of few more strands to it, and then that'll be it. It's not too bad. It's not as tedious as it could be. And I'm using this is the pen with the thinner lines, so I'm just going to use this to continue hatching. Going over the smaller lines and then adding the smaller strands. So here, for example, I'm working with two different tech pens. I'm going back and forth between two different tech pens, one for the contour and then one for the smaller lines in between the webbing. And it's coming out really nice. I like how it's coming along. And yeah, if you're watching, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be uploading more videos like this, as it's available to me. The next piece that I'm going to work on after this is going to be something for my own comic book. I'm going to draw. It's going to be like a character sheet, where you get to see the complete figure of one of the villains of the book. This villain is, I don't know, to explain it. This comic, I wrote it. I wrote the first issue. The first issue is finished, and I was thinking about drawing the first issue, but and then after my idea was to draw the first issue, and then after the first issue is done, start writing the second issue. But I was recommended to write out the whole story first, so I know exactly what I'm gonna do, and then start drawing. And so the character that I'm going to draw next after this is the character that's going to appear in the second comic. It's not the antagonist, not the main villain of this first book that I'm doing, or that I plan on doing. So I'm going to design this monster. I have a drawing of this monster already done, and the character's name is Deathmonger. I unveiled it. I showed it off. It's in my gallery of art in Instagram. You can see it. But I was at the time I was not 100% sure on the look. I'm still not 100% sure. But I'm going to take the elements that I have so far and a few of the elements that I've created years back, and I'm going to try to mix those together and come up with a design for a villain. And I'll explain the whole process behind that when I start on that project. And in that drawing is going to be one character with a lot more grit, a lot more hatching and gritty lines to it than this one. Now, this is more of a sleek character, at least by my definition, because I'm not going overboard with the hatching and the rendering in this. I'm just doing just the minimal, I guess you could say. so you can define some of the shapes. But in the other character, I'm going to go all in, draw a monster, and then it's going to be the villain, one of the big villains for this story. And yeah, I hope you like it. I think you will. I've showed this off to other comic book creators, and they liked what they saw. And and so yeah, the villain is Deathmonger. What his power set, what his skill set, things like that. You're gonna just have to find out until the book comes out. Um, I'm gonna keep you in the dark on that, so you can be surprised when you read the book. If you ever read the book, hopefully I get that book finished. It's more like a pipe dream right now, but hopefully I can get that done. I need to get to it. I need to get to it. I need to get that book. I think I have a pretty good story. I think you guys are gonna like it. But yes, here you can see me, for example, juggling back and forth two different kinds of two tech pens with two different intentions. One is to go over the contour, and the other one is to um, and define some of the tinier, minute lines. And so I'm going to do that all throughout the process of this spider web. I'm trying. I'm going to try to make one web appear closer than the other, but that's really difficult. It's really difficult because of all the lines that are there in that spot. So I mean, I'm going to try my best to do it. We'll see what happens. And yeah, so that's the idea, just to get this done. And then and yeah, in the next drawing, I'm going to start with that monster Deathmonger. And yeah, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave any comments, any questions that you may have. If there's anything in particular that you'd like to see, please let me know. And I'm also going to take questions and then answer those questions, artistic questions. You know, like I had a question. I mentioned this earlier in the video, but a question about how to draw eyes and things like that. That I'm going to jump into when I get a chance. And just always remember that is how I would approach it, and it's not necessarily the truth on drawing eyes, because I don't have, I'm not a professional or a man with years and years of experience in comic book art. No, I've been doing this for about 3 years now, 4 years now. I mean, I've been drawing since I was 8, no, but I stopped after high school when I was 18, and then I picked it back up a few years ago. So I've been away for a long, long time, and and so yeah, so I'm trying to get back into it. And one of the things that I had to learn was inking, because I have never inked before, and everything that you see me do is everything that I have learned in the last 3 years. So so if I can do this, then you can do this. So that's the message. That's the message. If I can do it, you can do it. And I'm going to try my best to show you some of the things that I learned along the way. And yeah, shout out to all the inkers out there. You guys deserve mad props, because inking is not what I thought it was when I was younger. There's a whole lot more to it than just what may appear to be. Because I had thought inking was just tracing, going over the lines that were already there, but no, inking gives the art the finishing touch. It makes it, from takes it from not to offend anybody, but it takes it from the primitive pencils, and it finishes it into an elaborate, nice drawing. And yeah, shout out to you guys, because you guys work wonders, and you guys make the drawings come to life and look a whole lot better. And I mean, examples of this are like what Scott Williams does on Jim Lee. I mean, I've seen many cases where Jim Lee has drawn like a very, very simple figure, and Scott Williams just comes in and then just finishes off and gives it that pizzazz, that nice finishing touch to the art. And yeah, inkers do that. Inkers pick up the slack in many cases. The same with what's this inker's name? I keep forgetting her name. Her handle on Twitter is Ink Monkey. On Instagram and Twitter is Ink Monkey. Hope, Sandra Hope. Yeah, Sandra Hope is her name. She's an amazing artist, and she does a lot of great work. She finishes off pencils really, really good. Yeah, she's a top-notch artist, and so just a shout out to all those artists out, to all those inkers out there that are doing really, really good job. And yes, I'm just trying to show you guys what I learned in that time in the last 3 years that I've been doing art. And so yeah, so if I can do it, then you can do it, and hopefully along the way we can teach each other things, and all of us get better, which is the end goal, no? And yeah, so I mean, now what I'm going to do is just finish off these webbings, finish off the webbing, this webbing that I'm doing right now, and um, just some information. After I recorded this video, I realized that um, uh, I did not render the webbing for the animated Spider-Gwen. So I went ahead and animated that. Sorry, I went ahead and rendered that webbing off camera. So just to let you know, um, I think that's the only thing that I did that you guys haven't seen, because everything else on this drawing you guys have seen me do from beginning to end. I'm sorry. The only other part that I didn't do was do the underdrawing. No, when I started recording these videos, I already had a sketch of Spider-Gwen set up. So yeah, that part you didn't get to see me do, but I will do that in another video. There's so many ideas to go around, and so many things to play with. And yeah, so here I'm going back and forth, playing with one and the other. And one is for the contour, the other one is for doing the small, thinner lines. And there you can see my glasses. I'm very sorry. Hopefully it's not too much of a distraction or disturbance. And yeah, so thank you very much for joining me on this artistic trip. The trip is not over yet. We have the buildings to look at, and I will be doing that hopefully tomorrow or in the upcoming days. I'm not sure when I get free time to do this, but whenever I do, I'll be sure to set up the camera and record it so I can show you guys so you guys can see exactly how I go through my background process. And you're going to see that I don't use grids. I don't do grid work. But yeah, so thank you very much. And yeah, there's nothing much more to this. I'm going to just finish rendering, and what you've seen me do so far is what I'm going to continue doing on the next webbing off camera. Again, I'm very sorry about that. And yeah, the next video is going to be focused on sketching out the background, sketching out the buildings where I want them to be, and then the same thing as before. I'm going to ink those and then render after I ink the initial lines. So you'll be able to see me do that. And yeah, thank you very much. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. One of these days, maybe I'll do a live stream. Hopefully, the background noise isn't too bothersome. Yep. Spider webs. And that's pretty much it right there. Yeah, that's all I'm going to do in the video. I'm going to show this off as if it were finished, and then when I realize after I turn the camera off, I forget to render that the animated Spider-Gwen's webbing. So I'll do that off camera. And yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one where we work on the background for this Spider-Gwen piece. Thanks.